So what is the MCU timeline going to look like after the events of Avengers Secret Wars? Well, some brand new details have been provided, and these are quite interesting, different, and eye-opening because many things are going to remain pretty much the same, while other elements are going to be completely revamped, reshuffled, and changed to the point where it's not even a recognizable version of the MCU. So let's get into that. The sacred timeline in the MCU is a great concept, and of course, it's worked so far because they were able to explain how you have all these permutations of the Marvel Universe existing all over the place, and all the inconsistencies in the Fox X-Men timeline, which there are many of in each film, can be excused by, well, they're little ripples in time and space spinning off of the sacred timeline. Different Spider-Man? Hey, sacred timeline ripple effect after the death of He Who Remains. Again, everything makes sense, but what you quickly realize is that this concept cannot last forever, because if it does, then the events of everything happening in the MCU are literally pointless. Because if the sacred timeline isn't restored and one timeline isn't the primary timeline, it's sort of for nothing with what they're doing with this incursion war and universes colliding, universes dying. The whole point of Secret Wars is to take care of the incursions, because the moment the multiverse spun out of control, that's when everything goes to hell. Kang even explains this. You need order, you need the sacred timeline, because if you don't have it, it's the end of everything. So Marvel's already explicitly made it clear. One timeline is the way to go and what they're aiming to do. Which brings us into how Avengers Secret Wars is going to fix all of these issues. The whole goal of Avengers Secret Wars is to reboot everything. We know this. That's the goal. Secret Wars in the comics is a reset point. It's meant to take things, canonize and decanonize things, restore everything into order when things get out of hand. It's much like it's a softer version of a DC Crisis, because DC Comics is terrible at keeping continuity. They are far worse than Marvel. Hence why you've had so many different Crisis events, or a Final Crisis, or a New 52, or a Rebirth, or a DCU, or a whatever the latest offering is. They're all over the place, while Marvel is a little bit more structured. So they've realized that there's so much going on in the MCU, and with them getting their hands on the Fox properties, that it's going to become impossible, literally impossible, to just bring those characters and franchises in like they were always there. And that's the big problem. Fantastic Four had to be a multiverse story because they can't exist in the MCU at the time of their film. That just wouldn't make sense. Same thing with the X-Men. Now I know everybody runs to the absolute dumbest idea possible. What if Professor X just made everybody forget that mutants exist? Oh, cool. So Professor X is a hypocrite, yelling at Magneto for committing acts of terrorism and swaying people while he wipes people's memories every single second of the day with Cerebro? Yeah, bro. If that's your idea of how to enter into the mutant era of the MCU, is that Professor X has been mind-wiping humans for the last 80 years, you're a terrible writer who doesn't understand the basic concept of who Professor X is. So that can't work, right? That's what I'm trying to say. So what you have is Secret Wars setting itself up to fix every problem. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., part canon, not canon, fix it. Runaways, part canon, fix it. Cloak and Dagger, fix that. This show, like Iron Fist or whatever, you can fix all those mistakes after Secret Wars because it is a natural reset point. And like the comics, Secret Wars doesn't need too much explaining. Secret Wars exists as a way to literally end everything, see everything come together, and be reborn under one specific universe. So we can see already that Secret Wars is going to be a farewell to everything. That much is evident, you know? They're bringing back all these old Fox characters, actors that unfortunately in a handful of years might not be with us anymore. It is a final farewell. And the goal will be to just simply end everything, show Secret Wars and its devastating effects on the entire universe and multiverse with the branching timelines, what happens with them, and then hit the reset point. Because we already know details about the post-Secret Wars timeline, and they paint a pretty simple picture. Everything is rebooted. The goal of Secret Wars is to be an entry point. Now, I know that seems a little weird, but think about it. It has to be an entry point. Just like Avengers, the original film, was an entry point for many to the MCU, just like Endgame ended up being an entry point to many people who were just catching up. They were like, oh, I want to see this one. I need to be part of water cooler conversation. Secret Wars will be the same thing. Many people will return to see what the MCU is like after only catching a couple of projects. Some will have caught all the projects. It just depends on what you're interested in. And they will witness the Marvel Universe reborn. Now, the key to all this is the confirmation by Marvel Studios. Kevin Feige, multiple times now, has said that you look at other characters, James Bond and the like, it's not just one actor that's always played them. So why should we assume that only RDJ can play Iron Man? That only Hugh Jackman can play Wolverine? That only Tobey Maguire can play Spider-Man? Recastings are common, especially with big characters. Secret Wars has an opportunity and will do exactly what we all think they're going to do because they've spelt it out for us. Secret Wars will reset the universe. The X-Men have existed. The Fantastic Four are here. They exist in this universe. Loose canon and loose things that have happened in the past will be mentioned, but retrofitted to fit this new universe. And what we now have is a universe where everything takes place on one timeline. That much is pretty clear. But these little permutations of different historic events can now be addressed, and we just move forward. So you're essentially looking at a universe where everything hits a reset point where now you have a younger Wolverine, but you also got a older Wolverine, Hugh Jackman, who stays around for a bit. And he's bouncing off of Iron Man. But Iron Man is no longer RDJ. They've cast a younger actor so we can get new Iron Man films, new stories. And now we're not limited by, well, Iron Man and James Rhodes are really the only heroes at the time of Iron Man 2. Now you got the entire Marvel Universe at your disposal. So if you decide to do a new Iron Man, everything is available. And now you can retell stories in a fresh way. A new Captain America? Perfect. We're going back to World War II. Except guess what? It's Wolverine and the android Human Torch and Namor. And also, they're fighting Baron Zemo during World War II. Or at least one of his ancestors. And now you can retell origin stories and retrofit them for the new universe to fill out a new history. And that way, you're doing familiar things, but you got new actors and old actors working together to tell fresh new tales. AKA exactly what Secret Wars in the comics does and the effect it has on stories after each reboot event. Thank you for checking out that video, and thank you for your continued support. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, do whatever you will, and if you're so inclined and would like some additional content from us, which includes unfiltered content and bonus discussions, we do offer exclusively in our member section. We hope to see you there. So thank you for watching, and have a good one.